golf bag betrayal uncovered. I always hated the way he'd pack his golf bag with that smug little smile, promising he'd be back Sunday night, every single time. 3 years of these golf weekends, 3 years of my gut twisting every time he breezed out the door with his cologne still hanging in the air. The truth didn't hit me in the way I expected. It arrived in the form of a Christmas card, addressed to the other wife, tucked into our mailbox like a time bomb. The handwriting was cheerful, the photo inside even more damning: a different house, a woman with a ring just like mine, 2 kids with his eyes, all beaming in matching sweaters. The confrontation wasn't cinematic. I held up the card, and he just stared at the smiling faces, jaw clenched, not even trying to deny it. He told me he loved us both, as if love could be doled out like spare change. The arguments that followed were ugly: screaming in the driveway, neighbors peeking through blinds, his voice breaking as he tried to justify the impossible. I wanted to break everything in sight, but all I could do was stare at that picture, wondering how many weekends he'd spent pretending to be someone else. The worst part wasn't the betrayal, not really. It was how much of myself I'd lost while playing the part of the perfect wife, shutting down my own suspicions, smoothing over every lie with hope. I started to wonder if I'd even recognize myself without him, if the woman in that other family's photo felt the same hollow ache. Every time the phone rang, I half expected it to be her, demanding answers, wanting to know how long I'd known, if I was in on it too. But instead, it was him who left first. He couldn't stand the double life anymore, he said. He wanted to start over, but not with me, not with her. Alone. I stood in the empty hallway, staring at the dent his golf bag left in the wall, and realized the real scandal wasn't his secret. It was that, after everything, I wasn't sure if I missed him or the chaos he left behind.